Hello everybody, this is Fernando for the latest Urban Legends video. Alright, let's go ahead and we'll do another suggestion here based on one of your past suggestions. This one was recommended I think about third quarter or so last year, so not too far back, but it has to do with a theme that I actually talked about in one of my other videos, one of my past Urban Legend videos. Remember that video where I was talking about the earth being hollow? That was one of the ones where I got a bit of a lively discussion there, especially on the comments section. I've included the link for it again within the bottom portion of my video here, so check it out if you wanted a quick refresher on it. Well, this particular theme is again tied to it, but instead of it being directly tied to the earth being hollow, rather it's about a race, a civilization of sorts, a set of beings that somehow dwell within that earth. They have a very particular name, and they apparently influence us humans here on the earth, on the upper part of the earth, to this very day. So all very fascinating information. Never heard of this urban legend before, but I'll explain as much information as possible. And so these beings, whatever they are, this is their name. This is the urban legend. It's called Deros, D-E-R-O-S, which you're looking at a picture of here. Basically, they're your most, I guess, if you wanted to think of your average subterranean being, that's them. They've actually apparently influenced some past films too. Like if you've ever seen the films The Descent, or if you've ever seen the films The Cave, and maybe even Hills Have Eyes, but that is not like too directly tied, but still it's somewhat tied. It's the idea that somewhere in this earth, if you go underneath it, there's a race of subterranean beings that are either extremely bad, like we're talking like the worst of the worst, extremely violent, or they just don't tolerate human beings at all, and that's why they decided to live underneath us, and then that way they're there. But in a few minutes I'll explain how they still apparently seem to influence us. So what are these Deros? What are they exactly? It's weird. There's a lot of theories as to what these things could be. If you truly believe that they exist, there's various theories as to what originated them. There's the idea that they were ancient aliens. Those of you that are history fans, immediately you know about that show. And what happens is somewhere along the way, maybe even thousands of years ago, they came across the earth, but when they did so, they instead, living on top of the earth, decided to live underneath it. And then either they stayed as is in the condition that you see them today, or they evolved, living under the actual earth. It created and transmorphed them into their current state. Either way, they seem to be also the folklore involved with trolls and with leprechauns because of their rarity and because of where they live. So all fascinating stuff. There's another idea that they could also just be an ancient race of human beings, some beings that decided thousands of years ago to just move or migrate underneath the earth, and again, in doing so, they eventually evolved into their present conditions. Either way though, the theme is common. They live completely under the earth, they live in the hollow portions of the earth, and then that's where we as human beings essentially took over the top part of the earth, and that led to them having, in this case the Deros, a resentment towards it, because according to, if you believe some of these other theories, they do not like essentially living underneath us. They like the idea that at one point they were on top, they were the top of the world, both physically and metaphorically, but now they have another race, in this case human beings, doing so, and that's where they have this, I guess, evil streak within them, because I didn't really necessarily see any bad examples, like let's say tales of people running into the Deros getting killed by them, or getting, I guess, trapped by them, or kidnapped by them, anything along those lines. But still, if again, if you've ever seen those films, that's supposed to be a representation of them. So now, as far as other information of the Deros, if you believe the tales again, that their present conditions, they deteriorated because of them being so much underground. Think of it like let's say Lord of the Rings. I use that as another example in a recent video how Smeagol, one of the main characters there, just eventually evolved into Gollum because of so many years, I guess, underground. And then that violent streak, that evil streak that came from them, here's where it's from. So another theory is that apparently these Deros, because of that resentment towards us, they have some way to fire these rays. I don't know what these rays are. I don't know how they look like. I don't know how they work, but the whole idea is they live underground. They fire these rays upwards towards the surface, and when they do so, these rays supposedly influence mankind in very bad ways. So if you've ever thought how human beings can be so bad against each other, how they can create all these wars, how there can be so much violence, so much love of violence in this case, there's the idea that it's these Deros. They are constantly fighting us by firing these rays towards us. How they're doing, again, I have no idea, but then those rays in turn influence us either subliminally or directly into choosing very, very bad things to do against one another. So that's a whole idea. Like that's a whole other realm of discussion, but that it's at least one way that these Deros are living to this day. There's yet another very fascinating idea with the Deros, and that is that not only that they live on the ground, but there's another subterranean species very similar to them. Who knows, maybe they were all together at once when they went underground, but then they separated. But these are called the Teros, and so these are also people, beings of some sort that live underground with the Deros, but they themselves actually fight one another. Like they are at complete war with one another. In this case, it seems to be the idea that the Teros are the complete opposite of the Deros. The Teros want to help mankind, and because of that, the Deros, the evil ones, fight against the Teros because of that particular stance. So all fascinating, isn't it? Like the whole idea that there's an entire subspecies of ancient aliens, or who knows, ancient human race underground, and they are in turn trying to cause us harm internally, trying to claim that land of theirs to be theirs again after we are done. But at the very same time, there's a whole other alien species or subhuman being or whoever that are down there with them, fighting against them, fighting for us. I mean, that's crazy. That's like a whole series of some sort. Like you could make a TV show off of this, and you could have like several seasons of it when it comes to all this stuff. All very, very interesting info. I'm glad I found this suggestion, so I'm glad to be able to share it with you here. But that's it. That's all the information with regards to the Deros. Nothing really else to talk about. Nobody has any clear photos of them. Nobody has, let alone any videos of them. But if anyone can share any more information, that would be really, really good to hear. Finally, the only other thing I could find was the name Deros. If you're wondering like where that's from, apparently it's an ancient word of some sort. It derives from the words detrimental, and then interestingly enough, I think it derives from the word robot. I don't exactly know how that works 100%. Maybe robot came about after it, but who knows. But at least as far as the words detrimental, that's where Deros seems to derive from. Very, very interesting stuff. So, alright everybody, thanks again as always. Take care.